Carl Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." But what he didn't tell you is how to use that understanding as a tool for transformation. Stay with me, because what I'm about to reveal about the psychology of silence will change the way you handle disrespect forever. When someone disrespects you, your first instinct is to confront them. You want to make them understand. You might even want to teach them a lesson. But according to Carl Jung's groundbreaking work on human psychology, the most powerful move isn't in what you say, it's in what you strategically take away. By the end of this video, you'll understand why silence is the ultimate psychological warfare. Here's something that most people never realize about disrespectful behavior, and Carl Jung discovered this through decades of studying the human psyche. When you withdraw access to your time, your energy, and your presence, you're not just sending a message. You're activating what Jung called the shadow. The shadow is that hidden part of their personality that they don't want to face. People who disrespect you are operating from a place of psychological comfort. They assume you'll still be there, tolerating their behavior because your kindness keeps you around. Jung identified this as projection. They're projecting their own insecurities onto you, expecting you to carry the emotional burden of their dysfunction. But here's where it gets interesting and why you need to pay attention to every word I'm saying next. When you stop answering their calls, stop replying to their messages, stop showing up where you used to, you create what Jung called active imagination in their minds. Suddenly, they're left talking to an echo, trying to figure out what went wrong. That confusion isn't random. It's their psyche beginning to confront the shadow they've been avoiding. Carl Jung discovered something profound about human nature that will blow your mind. He said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But what happens when one substance suddenly disappears? There's a unique psychological discomfort that comes from being shut out without explanation." Jung called this process individuation, where a person is forced to confront their authentic self. Your absence becomes a mirror reflecting back their behavior without the distraction of your emotional reaction. This is crucial, so don't skip ahead. Why? Because this reflection process is far more effective than any argument you could have had. Why? Because it makes them confront themselves. Jung understood that real change only happens through self-confrontation, not through external pressure. So when you withdraw, you're not being passive. You're choosing what he called conscious suffering over pointless confrontation. When you stop answering, stop explaining, and start focusing on your inner peace, you engage in something incredibly powerful. You begin to level up without broadcasting every step. At first, they may think you are just being distant. They might assume you'll come back like you always did. But as Carl Jung discovered in his clinical practice, the human psyche can't ignore persistent absence. Days turn into weeks, and the silence grows heavier. They notice your glow returning, your focus shifting, your energy no longer orbiting around them. That's when what Jung called the transcendent function activates. The moment when they realize they've lost access to you, not because you made a scene, but because you made a psychological decision. Here's the psychological twist that changes everything. The more you focus on your own psychological space, what Jung termed inner work, the more powerful you become in their eyes. At first, they may think you're just being distant, but in reality, you are transforming quietly. This is when the shadow work starts for them. They begin to realize that they underestimated you, what Jung referred to as the self-actualization process. Jung discovered that controlled chaos, the ability to become unpredictable in your responses while maintaining inner harmony, is where real psychological power comes from. You're building yourself up without announcing it. The mistake many people make is assuming you need to announce your growth. They think success is only real when it's posted, spoken about, or proven. But Jung understood that real psychological development doesn't need validation. It simply happens through what he called active imagination and inner work. When you start leveling up mentally, emotionally, financially, or spiritually without making noise, you gain what Jung identified as a psychological advantage. You become unpredictable. They can't gauge your moves. That mystery becomes psychologically intimidating. And as they gossip, doubt, and provoke, you continue shifting gears, investing in yourself, reading more, moving differently. You're choosing peace over petty conversations. You don't have to seek revenge. Your psychological growth becomes the message. It tells them, you never broke me. You just reminded me who I am. Every silent step you take toward your purpose, every goal you accomplish without their knowledge, every inner battle you win, becomes part of what Jung called the hero's journey, the journey they never saw coming. Jung's insight into psychological sovereignty is profound. Staying calm in the face of disrespect is one of the most powerful psychological choices you can make. It's not weakness, it's conscious control. Sometimes the most powerful psychological move you can make is simply to disappear, not out of weakness, but out of conscious choice and self-respect. Your absence, your silence becomes a loud message. You're no longer bound by their actions. Thank you for watching. If you found value in this exploration, consider sharing it with someone who needs to hear this message. Don't forget to subscribe and join our community for more insights into psychological transformation and Carl Jung's timeless wisdom. In the end, remember, your silence speaks louder than any confrontation. Stay empowered and continue your journey towards psychological sovereignty.